Hey viewers, it's Ben Chan again, and I have Hilary Hahn with me once again. Thank you for your time. And
Yeah, sure thing.
so I just had a couple of questions for you. I know that there are a lot of viewers that would love to be in my position right now, so I'm just going to ask you the ones that I think that they'd be most interested in. So
Okay.
wanted to first ask you about the channel that you have, Hilary Hahn Videos. Um, I understand that you wanted to celebrate Arnold Schoenberg's Violin Concerto. Is that kind of how it
hmm
started? What is your main goal now that that's over? That you've been able to do that with the channel? What would
Well, I
you like to
wanted an
accomplish?
excuse to launch,
Oh, I see.
and that was a really good goal. And it was actually a really good reason to interview a lot of people and answer a lot of questions. And I
Hmm.
did more answering questions at first, but it got me thinking about talking to people. And in fact, I was able to incorporate interviewing Schoenberg's family,
Hmm.
and that was really fun. I just happened to be in LA and visiting them for lunch, and I brought along the computer, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Hey, let's do this." And then they turned the questions around on me, and so it's great. It's I kind of started it with a project, and that really helps because it keeps you from thinking that it's this kind of nebulous
Hmm.
form where you can put anything up. It just really gave me a focus, and I've been able to maintain that focus. Now I use it as a vehicle for communicating directly with people by giving them updates from like being on the road and stuff, and
Hmm.
it's like a video journal.
Yeah.
But then I also get to interview people, and I love interviewing because I've been on the other side so much, and I know what it's like to answer questions. So it's kind of it's a good outlet for me to do that
How
too.
do you find time to do that during your busy schedule?
I just bring the computer along, really,
Yeah.
and after rehearsal, I'll sit down with a colleague I've just been working with and say, "Hey, can I ask you some questions?" And it's really good because when you put someone on a microphone, you learn all sorts of things about them that you would never learn about them, working with them for years. And it's because people don't formulate things in the same way they formulate answers to an interview question. Some stuff you just don't talk about much in conversation. So I've learned a lot about my colleagues by doing this, and it's always really interesting to me. So it's kind of, for me, part of the working process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's great, and I think it's fun to see that you're interviewing people rather than being interviewed all the time. I bet that
Well, I
probably
do
gives you a
enough
different.
interviews and I enjoy them. Like I
Hmm.
enjoy being interviewed because it gives me a chance to, communicate what I'm trying to communicate, but in my own words. And also interviewing other people, like because I've been on the other side a lot, I feel like, um, I'm familiar with the kinds of questions that are comfortable to answer and the kinds of questions that are awkward. So I try to conduct interviews where the questions aren't too awkward, but I'm sure I'm doing it anyway.
It's, yeah, that's just you can't get around that too easily, huh? Okay, well then I'm not gonna ask anything awkward. I'll try not to.
Yeah,
But
you can't help asking things that are awkward. Everyone
or I
has
guess
it.
it could. No. So I got a question for you then. Hopefully this isn't too awkward. But as a kid, What was the one thing you can remember that made you want to learn the violin? If you can think of one thing that was the catalyst to learning violin, could you
I
pinpoint that?
think I didn't even consider learning violin until it was an option right in front of me.
Really?
So it was not really the case that I was like, I want to learn the violin, I want to learn the violin. It was more that I saw a lesson and I thought, oh, I can take a lesson too? Okay. And I signed up. So it's just something that entered my life. I didn't
Hmm.
really think twice about it, and
Yeah.
it wound up being a really good path for me.
So what advice would you give to a kid that was learning the violin for the first time and then was starting to get frustrated because it's the very beginning, it's the first couple of days, and they want to drop it?
Well, it's hard at the first couple days to know where it's going for you. It's
Hmm.
hard to feel like you've invested anything, and it's easier to quit. And it could be that it's not the right instrument for you. It could be that it's not the right time. You don't have to keep going just because you don't like something and you should like it.
Hmm.
But if you feel like you will enjoy doing it and it's something you've been wanting to do, but it just isn't what you expected, that's normal. I mean, it's totally normal that you would think one thing is going to be a certain way and you just really want to do it and you get into it and it's really not that. And at that point, you just think, well, okay, let me just stick this out a little bit longer. Let me give this a fair shot because maybe I'm not giving it, a good chance. It's kind of like if someone met you and they had a first impression and they decided they never wanted to talk to you again,
Mm.
you know, you wouldn't feel like that's fair, right? Because there's a lot more to you that maybe they didn't see. And I think you have to give people that respect to give them a chance, and you have to give instruments that respect, and you have to, you know, whatever you take on, there are people who are there to help you out who have the experience. So you have to trust them and listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, and it's almost like you have to trust
Teachers,
your
parents, whatever.
instrument too, a little bit. Even though you think that it's
Yeah,
a personal thing, it's also a, you know, these things don't live, but they kind of have a respect thing that they need. So I think that's
right.
interesting.
I think it's just fair to give everything a really good shot, and then if you decide not to do it, then you've given it a fair shot and you've made an informed decision. But if you don't, then in the future you may think, well, gosh, I really wanted to do it, and then it got hard and I quit.
Right.
And you might not feel comfortable with that decision. What I always find when something gets hard is that's when I'm learning the most.
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
so whenever I feel like I'm hitting a wall, I'm working really hard to get over that wall, but I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. And when I get past that point, I realize how much progress I was making the whole time, and I'm really glad that I put in that work. You may, if you're a beginner, you may see kids around you automatically playing great at first, and it may seem so easy for them. But you know what's going to happen is the kids it comes easy to aren't going to know how they learned what they do, and it's going to fall apart on them, and they won't know how to fix it, and they'll have to go back to scratch at some point and start over. But you'll have the advantage of having worked through every single obstacle and knowing how you accomplished what you accomplished, so that if something starts to go wrong in your playing, you know how to fix it. So it's really an advantage to have to work hard at the beginning. It's an advantage that it doesn't come easy. And it's a real good test of whether you want to continue with that particular instrument or switch or do whatever.
What type of
But yeah,
kid
I
were
would
you
just
in the
say,
back?
you know, give it a good chance,
Yeah.
and then make your decision.
Yeah, I was just asking, what type of kid were you? Were you the one that came easy to, or were you the one that worked hard, or had to work hard because of it?
I don't feel like anything has come easy.
Hmm.
People around me may say that I seem to progress faster than other people, but I put in a lot of work,
Mm-hmm.
and I always feel better about something when I've had to work on it. I don't trust when it just happens,
Mm-hmm.
because then I know I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I know it's just kind of a fluke, but I don't know if it's actually solid. So if I've had to work on something, I really believe in it, in my own ability to do that. And I think hard work is most of the progress that you make.
Yeah, do you hear that, kids? So if it doesn't come easy to you in the very beginning, it's definitely something that you should still work on, and then you can feel good about the work, but also make the journey. I think that's great.
I think it's something to be proud of if you worked really hard.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you've had a tougher time than some of your friends, I think it's something to be proud of, that you've gotten through it and you've made all that progress, and you can feel really good that you know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And you can really feel good about your teachers for getting you through it. And you just have to trust people around you. You have to trust yourself. Nothing is impossible. Really, nothing is impossible. If someone says something is not doable, show that it's doable. You
And
know, just go out
community.
and prove,
You should rely on your
prove
community.
everyone wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Hilary. I appreciate you taking the
Yeah,
time
thank
during your
you.
tour, and best of luck to you at your tour. We'll be watching. So,
Okay.
should be good. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
See ya.
Bye.